In 1926, writer H.P. Lovecraft introduced to readers of science fiction a terrifying new kind of monster, an ancient godlike being from another dimension called Cthulhu. Over the past 90 years, Cthulhu has grown into a pop culture icon, appearing in comics, in video games, and in various incarnations in film. But what does this strange chimera represent to us? The first and obvious answer is that Cthulhu represents the archetype of the unknown. His description conjures up the invertebrates and the fish of the deep ocean, things that are profoundly alien to us. In terms of Barbara Creed's writing on horror, Cthulhu is reminiscent of the phantasmatic, archaic mother who constitutes the abyss. But in Lovecraft's stories, what is most frightening about Cthulhu isn't the horror of his otherworldly appearance. Instead, what Lovecraft believes is truly terrifying is the cosmic horror he inspires. Reflecting the upheaval made by the works of Darwin and Freud, Cthulhu embodies the anxieties of the modern age, showing the threat that science poses to undermine the very values of Western civilization. Of the many films based on the work of H.P. Lovecraft, one of the most faithful adaptations is the 2005 film The Call of Cthulhu. The film follows the investigations made into uncovering the origins of the mysterious cult that worships Cthulhu. The investigators are archaeologists, scholars, and policemen. They represent the cultivated, civilized men of Western civilization. Contrasting against them are the cultists, people who have heard Cthulhu calling them back to the dark corners of the earth, the primordial swamp, and to the ocean. The investigators are horrified by what they uncover. This alarming encounter has both strong connections to Freud and to Darwin. In Freudian terms, the cultists represent our unconscious primitive drives. According to his letters, Lovecraft agreed with Freud's Civilization and Its Discontents, which states that civilization is created by the repression of instincts. Lovecraft describes the chanting of the cultists as having the sound of belonging to half men and half beast. Likewise, the distinction between man and animal was troubled by Darwin's theory of evolution. If human beings were not divinely created, but were the product of blind natural selection, then there isn't much that separates humans from the rest of nature. Cthulhu can therefore be seen as a symbol of our prehistoric ancestors, from a time before they left the sea, calling us back to our place of origin. This contrast reflects the imperialist prejudices of the time period. But Lovecraft complicates this binary. The investigators reveal that around the world, people of every nationality are simultaneously experiencing the same vision of Cthulhu in their dreams. The dreamers see Cthulhu's sunken city of R'lyeh and hear the same words chanted by the cultists. The universality of this call upsets for the investigators the existing boundary between groups perceived as being civilized and primitive. Like in Freud's work, Cthulhu's dream projections show that so-called modern people are still motivated by hidden impulses that our conscious minds have no access to. And Cthulhu's psychic link to us and our species seems to be symbolic of the undiscovered evolutionary missing link that Darwin believed connected our species to other forms of life. After uncovering these discoveries, it is not possible for the investigators to clearly draw the line between what is human and which is inhuman. This is part of what I think Cthulhu represents to modern man in Lovecraft's work. The story shows scientists and explorers entering into unknown territory, seeking after answers. As Creed would put it, they're guilty of the strongest transgression, peering into the womb in order to investigate the mysteries of our origins. But what they discover isn't miraculous, it's monstrous. The terrifying truth about the scale of the universe and our insignificant place in it. Cthulhu dethrones civilized Western man, proving that our supposed superiority over nature and our divine right to rule over the earth is a lie. In the face of this truth, modern man must flee. But by the end of the story, the majority of the investigators are either killed or driven mad by what they have glimpsed. Although Lovecraft deeply fears the primitive and chaotic, I think what truly frightens him is the implications of the primitive within. His academic studies have convinced him that civilization exists to repress our original state of being, but Lovecraft does not believe that civilization will inevitably be victorious. By exposing the truth of our origin, Lovecraft fears that scientific discoveries undermine boundaries designed to keep the abject at bay. Because both the self and civilization are based on an illusion, both are in danger of collapsing at any time. The film adaptation chooses to emphasize this fear by ending with a quote from the short story, in which Lovecraft states that science will lead mankind into madness or a new dark age of ignorance. In this way, Lovecraft's invention is unlike most aliens in science fiction that serve to reinforce the boundaries between what is human and the alien other. Cthulhu is a monster for the modern era, representing the dangerous truth humanity relentlessly searches for, but is ultimately unprepared to learn.